Today is very auspicious day, the cleaning of Gundica Temple Festival by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I will read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, but not with Bengali verses because already we were reading before and this topic is something long, so to cover more of that text, so I will read. In this way, the Lord, means Mahaprabhu, passed some days in great jubilation, that is in Puri. Then the car festival of Lord Jagannath approached. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, then for Sarvam Bhattacharya. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them for permission to wash the temple known as Gundica, because they are managers. Kashi Mishra is the place where Mahaprabhu is staying, and he's very close to king, and Sarvam Bhattacharya is king's pandit and also superintendent of temples. So he requested that service from them. Upon hearing the Lord's request for permission to wash the Gundica temple, the Poricha, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform. The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore, order me. I can immediately bring all these things to you." As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundica. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gundica temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with the brooms. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, Singhasan, cleansed it, and again put it in its original place. Ceiling in India is made of stone, so they will throw water like this up. It will wash the ceiling also. That is not possible if you have wood like this. But there in India, especially temples, they are made of stones, so it is possible to clean like that. Thus, the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple buildings, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the Kirtan hall. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. Example is better than precept. You have to do yourself. In this way you can teach others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna all the time. This is necessary. Whenever you do any kind of seva, you have to chant. While cooking, cleaning or any seva you do, at that time you also chant. Because it is naturally, you are doing it for Krishna, and naturally you are singing his glories also. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, Bhog Mandir, was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters, one after the other. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees, in great jubilation, began to gather straws and dust with their own cloths and throw them outside the temple. They are very happy because they are pure devotees, and when they are doing service of Krishna, they become happy. But if someone does not have such a relationship with Krishna, then he will feel it as a burden or something which he does not like this. But here it is repeatedly mentioning Paramaharisha, very happily they were doing this, because they are real devotees. The Lord then told the devotees, I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside. Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse, because he is Supreme Lord. By his magical, mystical powers, he can do like that. Although there were many, but they could not collect as much as he could alone. Like when Baman Dev was going towards that yagya of Bali Maharaj, he was very small, and other Brahmins, they overtook him. They went in front of him to come first. But again, after some time, they saw him, he was again in front of them. Again, they overtook him, and again, he was in front. How this is possible? Because Supreme Lord is omnipotent. So here also, he himself alone had a much greater pile of dirt collected than all others combined. It's mystical. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready with filled water pots, and they simply awaited the Lord's order to throw the water from them. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for water, all the men immediately brought the 100 water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them before the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple, and then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sitting place, Singhasan, and everything else within the room. So not only one thing, but everything he cleaned for the service of Jagannath, because tomorrow Jagannath will come there, so that should be cleaned. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. When this water fell, it washed the walls and floor. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to wash the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own hands, and all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. The water that fell from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. After the room was, that is, you get prema immediately if you get feet wash of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Charanamrita. That is why they did this. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and it then flowed and filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also. In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clean as the rooms. So they were not cleaning like just to clean little. They were cleaning very thoroughly, very attentively, and really they wanted to clean. Because they are devotees, they know Jagannath tomorrow will come, and they are seriously cleaning. Very minutely and perfectly they are cleaning. Very happily. And after everything was clean, their mind of devotees was also as clean as that. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool, and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. Means Mahaprabhu's pure mind, because he ordered we will do this. So by his grace, it happened that it was purified completely. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water in the pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharati, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there, because they are more senior devotees. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Some people were filling the pots and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hari. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names Krishna Krishna, and another delivered a pot while chanting Krishna Krishna. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached every devotee just to teach him how to work. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him, but if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, not bearing him any grudge. This is important. As Gurudev told, those who have real love for all jivas, they are entitled to correct others, their mistakes, or to chastise, because they will do it out of their compassion for them, to really help them improve. They can do. But if some conditioned soul, for some other purpose, for self-aggrandizement, or because he's angry on that person due to thinking he's the cause of my miseries, he's obstructing my sense gratification, then out of that anger, he will also chastise that person. That is grudge. When you are angry on someone, someone did something you don't like, or you got some suffering, then you will keep grudge. That keeping that grudge and this hostile mentality, that is very unhealthy also, even in physical sense. If you can forgive and actually don't blame and remove that hostile mentality to anyone, then your health also will improve. Not only consciousness, but your health also. Many, they realized this. So here, Mahaprabhu was chastising, but not out of any grudge. Gurudev said, if we speak about bad qualities of others out of grudge, then those bad qualities of others will enter into us and we will have a fall down. But if Guru, who has love for that disciple, and he can appropriately chastise, then that will not be harmful to anyone. It will be helpful. So that is why here Pavitra Bhartsan, that is Pavitra means pure, pure chastisement, means without any ulterior selfish motive. But if someone does with, Gurudev many times told, when one reporter came to Gurudev in Mumbai and he was interviewing Gurudev, then that reporter came out and he spoke with our God brother, and that reporter was very happy coming out and very astonished and satisfied and appreciative. He said, he's a real guru. I know he's a real guru. And then that our God brother asked, why you think so? He said, I am a reporter. I went to many places. I interviewed many. And when I start some topic about, that sadhu did this, or that person did this, and all this, all others, they would very happily hear that and also add to the drawbacks or cheating propensities or whatever bad qualities they would add. But when I started this topic, in order to know what your Gurudev's opinion is on this, he would always change the topic and start something else. Then again and again then Gurudev said, my Gurudev told that I should not see and speak about the bad qualities of others, because by that we will pollute our minds. So he had to explain to him. And then that is why that reporter was very happy, and he said he's a real guru. I never saw anyone like this before. He did not want to indulge in criticizing others, even not to hear about this. So that is pavitra. If like Mahaprabhu or Sanguru, his disciple, they will chastise, that is pavitra bhartsan, pure chastisement, not chastisement which will pollute your mind. The Lord would say, you have done well. Please teach this to others so that they may act in the same way. As soon as they heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this, everyone became ashamed. Thus, the devotees began to work with great attention. They washed the Jagamohan area and then the place where food was kept. All other places were also washed. In this way, the meeting place was washed, the entire yard, the raised sitting places, the kitchen, and every other room used for the service of Jagannath. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed within and without. After everything was thoroughly washed, a Vaishnava from Bengal, who was very intelligent and simple, came and poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord. The Gauriya Vaishnava then took that water and drank it himself. Seeing that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt a little unhappy and was also outwardly angry. Although the Lord was certainly satisfied with him, from his own angle of vision of that devotee, because he wanted to receive grace of Mahaprabhu, so certainly he was satisfied with him. But he became angry externally in order to establish the etiquette of religious principles. The Lord then called for Swarup Damodar and told him, just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava. This person from Bengal has washed my feet within the temple of the personality of Godhead. Not only that, but he has drunk the water himself. I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me. Even you should not bow down to anyone in front of deity, what to speak of, or you should not take worship from like this. So that is one kind of seva aparat. And then Mahaprabhu said, now what will be my destination? Because of this offense, I allowed this. At this point, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught the Gauriya Vaishnava by the neck and giving him a little push, ejected him from the Gundica temple and made him stay outside. After Swarup Damodar Goswami returned within the temple, he requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excuse that innocent person. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all of the devotees to sit down in two lines on both sides. One second. Yes. The Lord then personally sat down in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains of sand and dirty things. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, I shall gather everyone's collection and I shall ask whoever has collected less than the others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice. In this way, all the quarters of the Gundica temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless, like one's cleansed and pacified mind. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it appeared as if new rivers were rushing out to meet the ocean, to meet the waters of the ocean. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done by mystical power of Mahaprabhu. Gateway of the temple and also all roads. So here in the commentary, in commenting on the cleansing of the Gundica temple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the world leader, was personally giving instructions on how one should receive Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, within one's cleansed and pacified heart. If one wants to see Krishna seated in his heart, he must first cleanse the heart, as prescribed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikastaka, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. In this age, everyone's heart is especially unclean, as confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Hridyantah Stohi Abhadrani. To wash away all dirty things accumulated within the heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The first result will be that the heart is cleansed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this statement. Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantah Stohya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. If one does the Shravan Kirtan, hearing about Krishna and speaking about Krishna, that will clear the heart of all other desires, except desire to serve Krishna, and in such clean heart, Krishna will appear. If a devotee at all wants to cleanse his heart, he must chant and hear the glories of the Lord Shri Krishna. Shrinvatam Swakatah Krishna. This is a simple process. Krishna himself will help cleanse the heart because he is already seated there. Krishna wants to continue living within the heart, and the Lord wants to give directions, but one has to keep his heart as clean as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept the Gundica temple. The devotee therefore has to cleanse his heart just as the Lord cleansed the Gundica temple. In this way, one can be pacified and enriched in devotional service. Pacified means we will have peace. We are restless, not peaceful, because of other selfish desires. But devotee has no selfish desires, only desire to serve Krishna, so he is peaceful. If the heart is filled with straw, grains of sand, weeds or dust, in other words, Anya Bilas, Purna, full of other desires, one cannot enthrone the Supreme Personality of Godhead there. The heart must be cleansed of all material motives brought about through fruitive work, speculative knowledge, the mystic yoga system, and so many other forms of so-called meditation. The heart must be cleansed without ulterior motive. As Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anya Bilasita Shunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. In other words, there should not be any external motive. One should not attempt material upliftment, understanding the supreme by speculative knowledge, fruitive activity, severe austerity and penance, and so on. All these activities are against the natural growth of spontaneous love of Godhead. We already have that love, but it is blocked by all these things because we are averse to Krishna, but we have to cultivate that natural love, instinctive love for Krishna. We have to cultivate by sadhana bhakti. Then it will be revealed. As soon as these other desires are present within the heart should be understood to be unclean and therefore unfit to serve as Krishna's sitting place. We cannot perceive the Lord's presence in our heart unless our hearts are cleansed. Our Gurudev gave like one example that we are outwardly saying, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, I don't want this, that, nothing. I want only you, Krishna. But actually we don't say from the heart, sincerely, from the core of heart, only by mouth. And it is the same as if we, in front of or above our door to our room, we put a big signboard, welcome, and we invite someone, or Krishna, we invite him, then Krishna will come seeing that welcome board, but when he will open that door, then he will see there is so many things there packed up to the ceiling, full packed up. There is no place to sit even there. So then Krishna has to turn around, and because there is no place to sit for him there. Although outwardly we put welcome sign. Like that we say, I don't want this, I only want causeless devotion, but actually we don't mean it. Then how Krishna will appear? So we have to associate with pure devotees and follow their instructions. Then that will remove other dirty things from our heart and Krishna can appear. A material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed. Overly word is important here. Devotees will also work, but not too much, not too less, and in favor of devotion to Krishna. But if someone is not practicing devotion to Krishna, therefore he will have that lack of happiness in his heart and ignorance. So he will think, the more I will get material things, the more I will be happy. So they are overly engaged in acquiring material things, thinking that will fill their heart with happiness, but it cannot. That is their ignorance, and therefore they are overly. But devotees, they are appropriately engaged, that Jukta Vairagya. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Sangsar Bishanale Dibanishihya Jwale Juraite na Koinu Upaye. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to the higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. Modernized material benefits are like the dust of material contamination. When this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. Thus, the mirror of the heart is covered with dust. There are many desires to perform auspicious and inauspicious activities, but people do not know how, life after life, they are keeping their hearts unclean, pious and impious in relation to Varna, Ashram, Dharma, Vedic, that system, but that is still keeping you in this world. One has to elevate himself to devotion that can purify heart completely. One who cannot give up the desire for fruitive activity is understood to be covered by the dust of material contamination. Karmis generally think that the interaction of fruitive activities can be counteracted by another karma or fruitive activity. This is certainly a mistaken conception. Like with Gurudev told, like with one dirty cloth, you are trying to clean something dirty. So by one karma, you cannot remove another karma. That is that prayashchita also, that atonement in karma kant. And it will not fully clean, and again that tendency will be there to continue with the sin. If one is deluded by such conception, he is cheated by his own activity. Such activities have been compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant may bath very thoroughly, but as soon as it comes out of the river, it immediately takes some sand from the land and throws it all over its body. If one suffers due to his past fruitive activities, he cannot counteract his suffering by performing auspicious activities. Not fully. Some release you will get, but not full. The only way these sufferings can be mitigated is by Krishna consciousness. When one takes to Krishna consciousness and engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, the cleansing of the heart begins. When the heart is actually cleansed, one can clearly see the Lord sitting there without any disturbance. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord confirms that He sits within the heart of the pure devotee. Sadavo Hridayam Mahyam Sadunam Hridayam Tvaham. Narayan told to Durvasa Rishi about Ambarish Maharaj. I am in his heart and he is in my heart. Impersonal speculation, monism, speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and meditation are all compared to grains of sand. They simply cause irritation to the heart. No one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such activities, nor do we give the Lord a chance to sit in our hearts peacefully. Rather, the Lord is simply disturbed by them. Sometimes yogis and jnanis in the beginning take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as a way to begin their various practices. But when they falsely think that they have attained release from the bondage of material existence, they give up chanting. They do not consider that the ultimate goal is the form of the Lord or the name of the Lord. Such unfortunate creatures are never favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they do not know what devotional service is. Lord Krishna describes them in the Bhagavad Gita in this way. Tan aham dvishatah kruran sangsareshu naradaman kipami ajasram ashubhan asurishu eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. According to our actions, Krishna is giving such a result. It is not that he is forcing someone, like I cast them, I throw them. He is giving the fruits of their action. That is why he's saying those who are envious and mischievous, they will get such fruit that they will have to be born in such demoniac species and again and again. By his practical example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may be free from the desire for fruitive activity, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. One often thinks of conducting business to improve devotional activity. But the contamination is so strong that it may later develop into misunderstanding, described as kutinati or fault finding, and pratishtasha, the desire for name and fame and for high position. Jiva himsa, envy of other living entities or violence. Nishidachar, accepting things forbidden in the Shastra. Kama, desire for material gain, and puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. As an example of pratishtasha, one may attempt to imitate Srila Haridas Thakur by living in a solitary place. One's real desire may be for name and fame. In other words, one thinks that fools will accept one to be as good as Haridas Thakur just because one lives in a solitary place. These are all material desires. But someone may, this is Haridas Thakur, I secluded, so for the name and fame I try to imitate. But I may imitate like some great devotee preacher. He is world famous as a great devotee. So I'm also thinking I will preach everywhere. But my desire is not to bring souls to Krishna to satisfy him, but to show that I'm great. So not only Haridas Thakur. Anything which you try to do by imitating some great devotee in order to get respect from others, that is pratishtasha. These are all material desires. A neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for woman and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder like that of a materialist. Gradually, one desires to become a reputed devotee or an avatar. The word Jiva Himsa actually means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness, means violence to Jiva, not only like you try to stop some person physically harming another, killing or beating or something, but Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that Jiva Himsa actually mean violence to Jiva, if you try to oppose the preaching of Krishna consciousness, because that is real beneficial for Jiva, but you try to oppose, or you are not doing it, that is also violence to Jiva. If you are not preaching Krishna consciousness, you are committing violence to other Jivas. And of course, preaching means example is better than precept. So one has to practice, one has to serve Krishna, and by his own example and also advice, teach others. That will be compassion. If one does not do this, he is also committing violence to Jiva. Because Jiva is eternal servant of Krishna, and he should or she should serve Krishna, but now due to being averse, they have to suffer. So to really help one Jiva, you have to persuade her to serve Krishna. If you don't do this, you are committing violence to Jiva. Preaching work is described as paropakar, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. If one desires to make a compromise with the Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never make compromises with non-devotees. By acting as a professional guru, mystic yogi, or miracle man, one may cheat and bluff the general public and gain fame as a wonderful mystic, but all this is considered to be dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. In addition, one should follow the regulative principles and not desire illicit sex, gambling, intoxicants, or meat. To give us practical instructions, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. His second cleaning was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleaning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means attaining peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. The mind can be peaceful and thoroughly cleansed when one no longer desires anything but devotional service. Even though all dirty things may be cleansed away, sometimes subtle desires remain in the mind for impersonalism, monism, success, and the four principles of religious activity: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. All these are like spots on clean cloth. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to cleanse all this away. By his practical activity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed us how to cleanse our hearts. Once the heart is cleansed, we should invite Lord Shri Krishna to sit down, and we should observe the festival by distributing prasadam and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach every devotee by his personal behavior. Example is better than precept. He was not teaching anything which he was not doing himself. Everyone who spreads the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts a similar responsibility. The Lord was personally chastising and praising individuals in the course of the cleaning, and those who were engaged as acharyas, must learn from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu how to train devotees by personal example. The Lord was very pleased with those who could cleanse the temple by taking out undesirable things accumulated within. This is called anartha nivriti, cleansing the heart of all unwanted things. Thus, the cleansing of the Gundica Mandir was conducted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to let us know how the heart should be cleansed and soothed to receive Lord Shri Krishna and enable him to sit within the heart without disturbance. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the Nrishinga temple inside and outside. Finally, he rested a few minutes and then began dancing. All around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees performed congregational chanting. The Lord, just like a maddened lion, danced in the middle. And all ecstatical symptoms, here it is mentioned, they appeared on the body of Mahaprabhu. And he was crying, and he was cleaning the devotees with his crying. And very loud kirtan up to the sky. And Mahaprabhu was jumping and dancing. And then they chanted for some time. Then they stopped. Then there was that lila of Advaita Acharya's son becoming unconscious and Mahaprabhu reviving him. And then they went to a lake to take a bath, and there they then after bathing, then they went to a nearby garden, and there they took all kinds of Mahaprasadam from Jagannath temple. It was brought there. So they were taking prasad in consecutive lines, one beside the other. So they took prasad. And Mahaprabhu also knew what types of preparations each person liked. He therefore had Sarup Damodar deliver these preparations to each devotee to his full satisfaction. In Western countries, if you make pizza, then it is almost impossible to miss. Everyone will be satisfied. Then they were taking prasad.